Hello, dear beloveds. Well, I'm here a little bit earlier than I first planned because my beloved priestess, Sam Jamel, will be going live in I Am Spiritually Fierce at 4 p.m. today. That's in about half an hour's time with the Communion Wednesday. And I didn't want anyone to miss out on that. That will be a beautiful experience. If you don't know, Communion Wednesday in the I Am Spiritually Fierce group is the day where anyone can come in and share what it is they're connecting from the field, what they're receiving from the infinite, and to allow that energy to be shared with the group for the benefit of all. And that's really a very beautiful day that I love. So I hope if you're feeling called to do it, that you jump into that group. But yes, I didn't want to take up Sam's time, so I brought this forward. So I want to talk about a number of different aspects that are, once again, these are really big things that are brewing inside of me. And really, I feel a little bit today like I'm talking to myself. These are things I need to say out loud for myself. And they're things that I need to hear and have documented. And then, of course, they'll get shared and I can reflect on them afterwards and come back to them. And it's all coming around this idea of the future of intuition, and that's really because coming up in September the Intuitive Intelligence Symposium is happening online and in Tuscany, and I'm doing interviews with our keynotes right now. So there's a number of amazing people who are being interviewed as part of that. Howard Martin of Heart Math I interviewed yesterday. Renee Baribeau, a Hay House author and shaman, I spoke to today. And as a result of these conversations and planning for the Future of Intuition Symposium, I'm really thinking about, well, what is that? What is the future of intuition? And what does it mean to me? What does it mean for my institute? I train women as intuition masters. I train women as spiritual leaders. What is the future that I see of intuition, and how are we going to get there? And so I feel very excited about this because these conversations normally happen inside the third level. As we say, we go deep into the temple in the third level, and I recognize that a lot of the conversations that happen inside that sacred year are now things I want to be sharing more broadly so that people can understand the difference between, say, going and doing a 4-week learn how to read oracle cards compared to spending a year training as a contemporary mystic and a spiritual leader. I'm not sharing that as a pitch for the third level. I don't want to be doing that. I want to speak about what I'm doing to contribute to that future of intuition, and how I feel it is the responsibility of spiritual leaders and teachers at this time to be investigating their own lineage and to be investigating what they've learned and the quality of what they've learned, and to see what is actually empowering others and what is taking power. Because unfortunately, a lot of what happens in the name of intuition and spirituality has been built on a foundation of rareness or specialness or gifts. And even if we talk in the language that everybody has this capacity to open to their intuition, we still are privileging this idea that some people have it more than other people, and that some people have it more naturally and innately than other people. And so we're still creating this idea that there are some people who are more entitled to have access to our intuitive intelligence, our applied intuition, than others. And I really think that there's a reason for that. There's a reason why we've got that kind of culture in spirituality, and that's a power differential. So if there is someone who you think has more power than you do, then you're more likely to go and invest in them. And you're more likely to go and try, to not literally rub yourself up against them, to be invested with that power. And that's, what the guru culture is built on, is this idea that we have to go and sit at the foot of someone who holds more of the God consciousness, more of that infinite special magic inside of them than we do, and that somehow we'll be infected or impregnated with that energy. The guru culture is coming to an end globally because it is a problem, because it's an abuse of power. And the systems of power globally are coming down. And we don't have to look very far or be particularly engaged to see that. The systems of power everywhere are coming down. The outing of all of these gurus in the world, in spiritual I'm not talking just about, Indian yogis. I'm talking about the self-styled gurus that Sharon Holmes talks about. There's a number of high-profile white spiritual leaders who are being brought in to question their integrity and authenticity. The whole system is being questioned, and we're talking about political systems, economic systems. We're talking about anywhere where there has been the subjugation of power, where someone's right to be has been based on, or someone's power has been based on taking power from somewhere else. And unfortunately, so much of what happens in spirituality, when you're training your spirituality, has been built on that idea that someone has power, and to get that power, you have to go and sit at their feet, and you have to kind of subjugate them to their power. And that works really well because it's a really good business model. Yeah, capitalism loves it. It's going to work really well if you think that there's someone who can do something for you that you cannot do for yourself. And I want to stop that. I don't want to be party to that anymore. And I don't want anything that I do to look like that. And I guess that's why I want to speak. As I say, I'm kind of speaking to myself right now, because I really want to make sure that the way I speak and what I offer is full of integrity. And if it isn't, to take it further, to go deeper. So what is the future of intuition, and how is it different to the model where you would pay someone money for them to read you, to look at your energy field, to read your future, to to give you insight into big questions of your life, to go to someone who might claim to be able to heal you or to heal aspects of your emotional, psychological, physical or spiritual pain? What's an alternative to that model? And an alternative to that model is in my opinion exactly what intuitive intelligence is. The future of intuition is intuitive intelligence, and this is the self-initiated. So it is only possible for us to be masterful in understanding our own life situation with intuition. And so what I want to say here about that is that it is the work of the self. It is self-sovereignty. Intuitive intelligence is about recognizing what you really are, changing your perception of yourself, and coming home to the truth that you are God or the infinite. And in order to do that, you do that for the self-initiated, self-reliant, intuitive. That is the future of intuition. Not this culture that we currently have that goes under the guise of spirituality, which I think actually has nothing to do with spirituality, where I will go and put my power at the feet of someone else and let them determine for me, reading oracle cards and crystals and swinging pendulums around, that they somehow can access more accurately the information about myself than I can access. Now, the only ways in which I believe it is ever appropriate to put yourself into someone else's care is so that they may gift you the capacity to know your own intuition better, so that you may be more empowered in your own intuitive knowing. And what is intuition? It's the language of your soul. Therefore, it is the language of God. If the services that you seek move you from fear to love, which is, by the way, the formula to increase your intuition, then that person is in integrity. They are authentic. They are showing up to their spirituality in accordance with the laws. And as a result, the work that they do for you will empower you to not need them anymore. And I speak to my third level priestesses about this, that if you're doing your job well, you make yourself obsolete. If you're doing your job well, your client will no longer need to see you. Depending on the individual consciousness of the client, they may need to see you a few times, but ultimately, if you set up a paradigm where that client has to see you more than 4 or 5 times, and in some cases they'll only need to see you once, then you're actually setting up a paradigm that is the old model of intuition, the old model of and it's not even intuition, it's this co-opting of intuition into a kind of a conversation that is nothing to do with what intuition truly is. Intuition is the private communion between you and God, and it is not up to someone else to have that communion for you. But there are going to be things that prevent you from being able to hear that communion, and those things are all one thing, and that is fear. And that fear might be in you for many, many different reasons, but ultimately it doesn't matter. Anything that is fear is preventing you from knowing your true nature. So to seek out someone who can help you know yourself better, to teach you how to do this for yourself better, to scaffold you to do this for yourself, is someone who is acting in integrity. to go to someone who behaves as though they have a key to unlock your soul and that they can do it and you can't do it is to act out of integrity. And I hope that difference is painfully obvious. I don't want to continue to bang on about it if it's painfully obvious, but I think for a lot of people it seems like they're going to someone to seek support to become empowered, but they're actually going to someone to seek support to give away their power because the burden of responsibility of their life is too great. And that is not something I'm interested in. So that is when I speak about what's an energetic scaffold. Well, I would say the women I train are energetic scaffolds. An energetic scaffold is someone who can hold you temporarily so that you may meet yourself as God or infinite unlimited consciousness and have that clear funnel, that clear channel of your God consciousness to you without mediation. And temporarily it is sometimes required, because of the level of fear that we might carry in our field, that someone else does that for us, that they hold us to show us and remind us of our true nature and to guide us back to those places that have become foggy, clouded to our reasoning conscious mind because they're deep in the subconscious. There's a deep science to this, which I'm not going to go into right now, but that is the paradigm of what I would seek. That is the future of intuition, is the energetic scaffold, the spiritual director, the person who guides you or directs you back to yourself, not guides you or directs you back to their services and you need to spend 12 months with them and you need to do their things because they know the answers and you don't know. But the person who says, this is very simple. You have temporarily acquired an amnesia based on belief in fear and the experiences of your life that have implanted fear into your subtle anatomy, and I will work by holding you to relinquish yourself of that fear so you may hear God speaking to you, so you may hear the infinite speaking to you. And that is an energetic scaffold, and that is the future of intuition, because an energetic scaffold holds you whilst you may self-initiate into your own deep intuition. It's vital that we self-initiate, because we know this. If someone does the work for us, it's going to be temporary. Even if you go to someone and they seem to answer all your questions and they seem to, heal your body, there's a very good chance that those states of being are temporary, because until that becomes your state of being in a permanent way through realization, self-realization, nothing can stick. You haven't altered your subconscious program. You've got a temporary band-aid, a temporary conscious program where you've got, oh, it feels so good not to have to take responsibility for this. And that self-initiation is the difference between the temporary healing and the permanent healing. The temporary move from fear to love and the permanent move from fear to love. And it's vital that we are trained to self-initiate. Everything that I teach, from my initiate program right to the third level to the now postgraduate program, is about that. How do we become self-reliant? How do we become willing to see and know ourselves as God and to do the work for ourselves? And if you are with someone who is doing the work for you, then that should be your first red flag that there is something very wrong here, that they are part of a system coming out of that guru model of I can hold more of God than you can, and therefore you should bow down to me. And it's a lie, and it's causing so much harm, and it has caused so much harm. And that's where I get into the danger of claiming special magic powers for yourself. I get very, very nervous when I see this, and I get very uncomfortable when someone says, send me an email and I'll add you to my list and I'll send you white light healing, or I'll do a reading for you and come into my group at this time and I'll read you for you, or come over here and pay me the money and I'll bless you with my magic, or I'm an intergalactic portal to the 29th dimension and you aren't, or I'm the only one who can access that information for you because I have special access to the dead people that have come before you. Claiming special magic powers for yourself is an act of spiritual supremacy, and I'm quite consciously using that word, that I am borrowing from unpacking my own white privilege and my own white supremacy as part of a challenge that Layla Saad's running. And I'm recognizing that so much of the problem that is in racism, and so much of the problems that are in what Layla is highlighting, that when she's pointing the finger at a particular brand of spirituality, is this superficial spirituality where we are using spirituality as a way to gain power over someone or something else. And that kind of power, the acquisition of power, is what our culture is built on. That is success. It's this idea of having power over something or someone else, and that if we are higher ranking, if we have more money, if we have more prosperity, if we have more of the stuff, if we have more followers, if we have more this, we have more that, then we've somehow succeeded in ways that other people haven't. And that model is the opposite of everything that we're being told is true. So our true nature, we've been told by multiple studies, is not competition. The Darwinian notion of competition has been debunked I mean, in every place that you look, and this is scientific peer-reviewed studies, that the optimal amount of competition for a species to survive is 0, and that we're not meant to be in a culture where we are attempting to gain supremacy or control over others in order to feel power that is attained through the acquisition or the reduction of another person is not power, it's abuse. And it's very, very important that of course for me, I'm speaking to myself right now. Remember, I started this video saying I'm just talking to myself right now because I need to say these things out loud, because I see a world that is my spiritual world, that I look around me and I look at my peers and I see the perpetuation of suffering because we are building a paradigm, or continuing to build false temples and false idols, and this idea that we can put our power, our hands into the power into someone else's hands, or into the trinkets and superstitions of the new age, and that somehow we're going to get what we need. We will never ever get what we need by putting our power into someone else, or into a trinket, into a superstition, into anything that is external to us. And so when I see that suffering being perpetuated by people who I honestly believe think they're doing something good here because they've never stopped to investigate it, that this is sort of my call out. I want you to investigate your spiritual practices. We do this throughout the third level. We do this throughout all of the training of the Institute, is question everything. Investigate your spiritual practices. Are you teaching people to place power into external objects, into external people? Are you teaching people that the power that they're seeking can only be attained through giving themselves over and their power over to another one? Or are you teaching people that they are the power, and that even though that's going to be uncomfortable as hell for people to hear, and that it might lose you some followers, and that it might make you less popular because you're no longer offering, free readings of pick a card here and, I'll tell you your future, I'll tell you about your life, that you are actually doing something that it has the integrity of what you showed up to your spirituality in the first place for. So we can imitate the bullshit rules that we've inherited of a contemporary superficial spiritual culture, or we can have the courage to question, why have we built a kind of a culture of spirituality, these self-styled gurus, this system of attainment of a lifestyle, or the behaviors that appear to be spiritual but do not actually behave that way, because they're saying, you give me your power, I'll take it, I'll possess it, and I'll tell you what you need to be successful. That is the opposite of what I hope it's apparent that I stand for. But if there's any places where it's not apparent, then I will do my darndest to change those things, because it is vital to me that, the Institute has always claimed to be revolutionary, to lead a new conversation, to take us beyond the trinkets and superstitions of the new age. I request of all of my sisters in the third level, excuse me, someone's at the door, hold on one second, might be a kid coming home. Just my children. I request of all my priestesses for the year of the third level that you put down your trinkets and superstitions. You don't play with your crystals. I mean, you can play with them, but you don't play with them with the intention of trying to get wisdom out of them. You don't play with your cards, your oracle cards. You don't engage in the habits and behaviors that you are actually desiring to break free from. And in that year, you learn how to become one with what you are, which is God. At the end of the year, if you want to pick up those things, you can. You see me wear my crystals and my malas. I love these things, but it's safe for me to have them because I do not have any sense that my power or authority lies in those things, just as I do not imagine for one second that my power or authority lies outside of myself. Now, questioning our spiritual bullshit rules, our rules, is uncomfortable work, and that's what it should be. It should be, where am I engaging in things that are simply trinkets, that are superficial engagement with my spirituality, and where am I actually taking myself and others to meet themselves as God? And if I'm unwilling to do that work, oh, child broke into the room, then there's a very good chance that I have a very superficial spirituality. So this might be the moment that I need to end this live, because little people have come home from school and run into my room. That's all right, he's pretty cute. But there's a lot in there, and I would love some engagement around this. If you feel moved by this, if you're angry with me because of this, if you want to ask questions because of this, if you want to push me or interrogate me or say, how is that? What are you talking about? I don't understand, blah, blah, blah. Please do that, because I don't want you to necessarily feel safe and comfortable with what I'm saying. I'm asking for a revolution. I'm asking for us to stop engaging with this superficial spirituality. I'm asking for us to take our power and to recognize that we are God. And that takes a lot of self-responsibility and a lot of unpacking of the places where we've behaved in ways that have perpetuated the suffering. And I just don't want to do that anymore. And I'd love to engage you. This is Luca. He's now wearing the malas and looking adorable. And I'm going to go hang out with him now. Thank you so much for being here. And please don't hold back. Let me know how this makes you feel. Let me know if you think that there are things you need support around with this. Have a beautiful day.